Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Mike Riley, Director of Montgomery Parks. Thank you for joining us, hopefully again, for our latest session of the Montgomery Parks Speaker Series. Today's session is titled Juneteenth, Celebrating the Past and the Present. As you well know, Juneteenth is our newest federal holiday in the United States, commemorating the emancipation of African Americans in our country. Before I have the honor of introducing our guest speaker today, I want to just go over a few quick housekeeping notes. This session is being recorded and will be posted to our website for future viewing. Of course, we will have a question and answer session immediately following the presentation, and you're encouraged to submit questions via the Q&A box in Zoom throughout the session, and we will try to address as many questions as possible in the last 15 minutes or so. I don't want to presume you know about Montgomery Parks. You may be new to the speaker series, so I'll just tell you a little bit about us. We're part of the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, which is a bi-county agency that serves over 2 million residents in both Prince George's and Montgomery counties, with a little over 1 million in Montgomery County alone. In Montgomery County, we manage 420 parks spanning 37,000 acres of parkland. So we're a big regional system with a lot to enjoy in our parks. So now let me get to today's topic. Today's guest speaker is the Scotland Juneteenth Heritage Festival Chairperson, LaTisha Gasaway-Paul. Montgomery Parks is honored to be a co-sponsor of the first annual Scotland Juneteenth Heritage Festival, that includes multiple events to be held over the weekend of June 19th, including a family-friendly festival in Cabin John Regional Park on June 19th. And I want to encourage everybody to look at the itinerary over the weekend at juneteenthscotland.org. You'll find all the activities. I'll just highlight a few. The festival will begin the evening of June 17th with a Motown musical celebration at Bethesda Blues and Jazz Club, and conclude on June 19th with the Scotland Freedom Day concert at the Montgomery County Fairgrounds. A highlight of the weekend will be the second annual Clarence Pint Israel Juneteenth Classic, hosted by the Bethesda Big Train at Povich Field on June 19th at 7 p.m. in our own Cabin John Regional Park. The game honors Pint Israel, a Rockville resident who became a star of the Negro Leagues in the 1940s. So now let me introduce LaTisha. LaTisha is a fifth-generation descendant of William Dove, the founder of the Scotland community in Montgomery County. That neighborhood is in present-day Potomac and was the first place in Montgomery County where African Americans own land. In our county, LaTisha is here to tell us some of the history of the Scotland community and how this year's Juneteenth celebration will help to preserve its history. The Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission and Department of Parks is linked to that history due to the formation of Cabin John Regional Park in the 1950s and 60s, which adjoins the Scotland community. So with that introduction, it is my pleasure and honor to welcome LaTisha for today's presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Riley. Good morning. On behalf of myself, Teresa Gasaway-Gleaton, Patrice Gasaway-Johnson, Reverend Dr. Evelina Huggins, Scotland AME Zion Church, and the Scotland community, we bring greetings to you this morning. Today, I'm going to take you on a journey. On this journey, you will see that we've come this far to give up now. Scotland Community and Scotland Juneteenth Heritage Festival. In 1880, my great-great-grandfather, William Dove, purchased 36 acres of land at an auction for $210 to help establish Scotland, a community of formerly enslaved African Americans. In 1905, the Scotland community in Potomac, Maryland founded the Scotland African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church on 7 Locks Road. AME Zion is an African American Christian denomination that started in New York. It is referred to as the Freedom Church. Its membership included Harriet Tubman, amongst others. On the image to the left, you can see the original one-room chapel. The building is to the back, which still has the original stained glass windows with inscriptions of the founding families. Scotland AME Zion Church is a part of Scotland community, one of the oldest Black communities in Montgomery County, and one of the first places where formerly enslaved African Americans purchased property. On the map, in the red out underline, are all the names of Black property owners. You will see that the community expanded a little beyond Cabin John Village and further down than the current site of the community. As I mentioned, in 1905, the churches formed in response to issue members were having: one, not being allowed into local white churches due to racial segregation, and two, the difficulty to reach other Black churches in the area. In 1915, the Sims family offers land for the church site. In 1924, the congregation built the one-room chapel by hand. Entering the 60s, the Scotland community was threatened by real estate developers and the expansion of Cabin John Regional Park. Originally, Scotland consisted of small houses on lots that had been subdivided many times as they were handed down from generation to generation. Most houses lacked public water and sewer, and the majority of lots were too small to meet county septic standards. Building permits were granted only if houses were brought into full compliance with the county building codes. Developers wanted to demolish Scotland and construct high-value homes similar to the others in the vicinity. In 1964, Geneva Mason and Joyce Siegel, along with other residents, organized Save Our Scotland, SOS, in response to the new development threats. The committee involved into the Scotland Development Corporation, SDC, Melvin Crawford, president of the SDC, assembled the small privately owned parcels into a community entity and fought and obtained public water and sewer and secured government funding for the new townhomes constructions. This allowed the construction of 100 new houses. Residents were active participants in the design of the new townhomes. In 1967, the church is completed and formed into it exists into today. After years of political fighting and lobbying, Scotland Community Development took control of the land and built 100 townhomes. In addition to being a sanctuary, the church quickly became the epicenter of the community. Weddings, food drives, birthdays, tutoring, and employment programs, and community meetings were held here. These are the reasons to why the church is now registered as a state historic site by the Maryland Historic Trust and is included in Montgomery County's Master Plan of Historic Preservation. Today, Scotland is a small, powerful community of townhomes, a neighborhood park, and a county-run community center. In July 2019, a terrible storm caused damage throughout the DMV and impacted Scotland severely. Water damage became a commonplace at Scotland AME Zion Church, but there was none like the storm this summer. We lost a wall, pictured on the left, and let water in and flooded the basement and left cracks that could cause the church to collapse at any moment. In the words of Reverend Dr. Evelina Huggins, pastor and leader of Scotland AME Zion Church, none of us are exempt from becoming weary, but giving up is not an option. That being said, the church started a GoFundMe page and started to receive help from other churches on Seven Locks Road and other individuals who passed this site and huge sign that called for support. The Second Surgery Project in the support of Glenstone Museum. Glenstone heard that call and stepped into support. Their team came equipped with the knowledge, connections, and technical expertise to collaborate with the church and support our reconstruction. About a year ago, Glenstone Foundation started a new campaign with the same intention called Second Century Project. This will raise funds to elevate the church site, restore the original building, and build a new space for gathering and worship. On this screen is design of the new church. The church will have an expanded sanctuary space for worship and community gatherings. And this is the view from the south. View of the new building addition. See the use of natural materials and textures. This building addresses the issues encountered with the county-sponsored space. This building will be managed directly by Scotland to use as needed. Now that the design has been completed, the church has begun their capital campaign to raise funds for this project. This campaign is called the Second Century Project, led by the Capital Campaign Committee of 8 church members, myself, and 4 Glenstone associates. The Glenstone Project team also assists with other needs, such as community engagement and communication strategy. The Second Century Project consists of 3 phases. 3 phases to project regeneration, regrading the surroundings landscape for resiliency, climate change, to mitigate the risk of future flooding, lifting the church figuratively, bring awareness to its history and significance to the county, restoration, the rebuilding of the historic original structure to serve the community for the next 100 years, rejuvenation, constructing a new state-of-the-art church to allow the congregation the opportunity to grow and serve the constituents into the next century. On July 9th, 2022, the Scotland African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church welcomed members of the community to the phase 1 groundbreaking for the restoration of the historic worship site and the new building of the worship space for worship. This was a historic gathering, not simply because we stand on these grounds, which was holy grounds, but because the presence of so many supporters affirmed that the importance of the historical African-American congregation in this community. These are our design and construction partners. The design is led by AA, our friends Whiting Turner, will be doing the construction, and most recently, a part of the site was identified as wetland and bayland. We are lucky that all the collaborators understand the community focus of this work and have all offered to waive fees, provide discounts, and provide time and kind towards this project. The annual Scotland Juneteenth Heritage Festival. This is Scotland's 4th year of officially was celebrating, but this is the first year that we are expanding it to the DMV and throughout Montgomery County. The Scotland Juneteenth Heritage Festival, June 17th through 19th, 2023. And it was greatly expanded, led by Scotland community and the tremendous support of many community partners and Montgomery County officials. The festival will be a 3-day celebration across Montgomery County, what we all agree will be the biggest Juneteenth celebration in the DMV. All net proceeds from the 2023 Scotland Juneteenth Heritage Festival will benefit the Second Century Project. There's a rundown of the events starting with June 17th. Opening show and Motown music celebration. Comes to the Bethesda Blues and Jazz Club for a rollicking celebration of the legendary Drop In from Emery Grove, Montgomery County's most legendary nightclub. The all-star lineup consists of DC's area's best musicians from the golden era to the dance party, bringing everything to life from Tina Turner, Aretha Franklin, Chuck Berry, Marvin Gaye, Fats Domino, and so many more. On June 18th, the Scotland Interfaith Worship Service and Breakfast. At the core of Freedom Day, represented by the holiday of Juneteenth, is faith. We stand on a rock. Reverend Dr. Evelina Huggins, Rabbi Evan Crane, Reverend Nancy Lett, and leaders of our other faith communities as the Scotland Emmy Zion Church hosted special morning of celebration and prayer at the Dean Zion, a people, a place, a praise. The service will include a performance by the Scotland Emmy Choir, and breakfast will be served. The day, it will also have on June 18th, a day of community service at the Cabin John Regional Park. Enjoy a day of outdoor fun and community service at the first Juneteenth cleanup day at Cabin John Regional Park. We will rake leaves, pick up debris, and pull invasive weeds throughout the day, and just having a day to bring us all together and utilize the park all year long. On June 19th. We start off early in the morning, 8 o'clock, June 19th, the 5K roadways with 1 mile family walk. We also have the Children's Pavilion, the History Pavilion, Interfaith and Social Action Pavilion, Health and Wellness Pavilion, the Classic Car Show, Juneteenth Scott Talent, the Food Court, the Children's Carnival, which is going to be held at Cabin John Park, Juneteenth Film Festival, the African Film Festival Institute for Theater and Cultural Center, Claresman and Israel Juneteenth Baseball Classic, and the Scotland Freedom Day Concert. This is all going down on June 19th. Here's some more information on how you can get a hold of sign up for tickets. Some events are free, some events are ticketed. But before we continue, I want to make sure that I give a special highlight, dedication, and warm thank you to David and Michael Blair Foundation, Montgomery Parks, Eden and Cabin John Village, Glenn Stone, Big Train Baseball, and Minds and Motions Child Care. It takes the Interfaith Committee along with a lot of others to make something of this caliber happen. And it just lets us and reminds us that there is strength in numbers. Before I turn it back over to Mr. Mike Riley, I just wanted to say a few words of my own. After all these years, God still heals. And struggle after struggle and triumph, resiliency. Juneteenth is a day of celebration. What are we celebrating? We are celebrating the freedom of 250,000 slaves that were freed on this day. So God be the glory. We are going to walk, talk, sing, and shout on June 19th. We're going to make sure that we are giving opportunity to those that might not have always had opportunity presented to them. We're going to reach out to the small businesses, not just the large businesses, but we're going to provide opportunity for the small businesses to have a seat at the table and let their light shine. That's exactly what Juneteenth is. It's about a day of opportunity. And we're going to do just that. I just want to take a second and say, I humbly appreciate all of the congregations around us, up and down 7 Locks Road, in Potomac and Montgomery County. Help us make sure that we are saying that DMV June 19th come through. We want to put this on the map and make sure that we have this year after year after year. Yes, this year we are supporting 100% of the proceeds are going to the Scotland AME Zion Church, but then the years to follow, the goal is to make sure we're giving back to those underserved populations that's been overlooked for so long, giving back to the school system for things that we know that should be there, but might not have the money to provide those necessities that we need as a people, as we need as a country. And if we come together like we're doing now and stick beside each other, then this world might just have a chance of being a better place. But division, we're not going to get anywhere. But together, united, we stand tall, we stand together. And that's all I have to say. Back to you, Mr. Riley.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Darren Flechet. I'm the Division Chief for Park Planning and Stewardship, and I'm going to facilitate the question and answer period. So first of all, thank you so much, LaTisha, for that really outstanding presentation. And we've got a couple of questions in the chat, but we've got time. So please, I want to encourage folks to add questions as we go. So thank you again for that presentation. And I may paraphrase some of these, but some I'm just going to read word for word. And given your inspirational comments at the end there, I'm going to start with this one. I'm just going to read it word for word. You are amazing and such a true woman of your word. Thank you for getting this together, and thanks to everyone else involved. Thank you. So
Thank you.
that was a nice comment from somebody. Let me go through another person of park staff saying that thank you for your powerful work. So the first kind of question here is, are there books or pamphlets that tell more about the history of the people who lived in Scotland? Were they farmers? How were they treated by the nearby white people after the war? And how many of the original families are still living in the Scotland community?
So it's a whole lot of questions there, and I want to make sure that I get to as many as possible. So, I mean, obviously, my family wasn't treated well. I think one of the topics that I wanted to go back to is when the county was trying to force my family off the land. It's one thing if you force someone somewhere and there are other options. When you're trying to force my family off the land, there's no other plans. There's no backup plan. There's no plan B or C. So if you take my family and they're forced off the land that we own, that forces homelessness. That forces separation. And those struggles that we had to go through is the reason that we're so close and tight-knit today and have that bond. I don't believe that there are any books. I do know that Mrs. Siegel has written something and is in a process of having a book published, but I'm not sure if there's any books that are already out and published today.
Thank you.
And you know what, let me just add on to that one
Please.
second. In the Scotland community, it consists of 100 homes. 75 are rental and the other 25 are still home owned. I live in the Scotland community. And if you go down into the Scotland towards the home owned section, that area is known as Dove Land. So I had a conversation with County Councilman Friedson and County Elect couple of other members, but I wanted to see if we could change the street to Scotland Dove Drive. So that is one of the projects that we are working on, and that's trying to change that from Scotland Drive to Scotland Dove Drive, because that was Dove land. And if we don't make sure that that is honored and that we're preserving our history, then it gets swept away. So I know that it's been in the work to make sure that we are honoring what the legacy that it has there.
Thank you for that. A question about the festival. How do you see the yearly festival evolving in the future?
Yes, so the festival, we have talks on not only just doing it for right now it's in Montgomery County, but we possibly would like to bring it throughout the whole state. It is something that from year after year, we want to expand, we want to grow. This is the one day, we call it Opportunity to Give Back. As Black people, we were slaves. We were free, but we lost so many things along the way that opportunity was not given to us to have the same playing field as everyone else. And on this day, we're going to make sure that the funds that are received, whether it be fundraising, whether it be by way of donation, and it doesn't even have to be just by way of time, like the day of service. Everyone's going to stop on this day, and on this day, we get the opportunity to make all of the wrong things right. So that's what this is all about. It's about bringing community engagement. We can't change the past, but we can also act like that it didn't happen. So we have to provide opportunity so that growth and underserved can have those same options and be on the same playing field. And what does that look like? That looks like maybe possibly helping certain things like MVA, helping with driver's license, helping with citations, helping with things that put you at a setback, helping with insurance. A lot of things, times you can't pay insurance because it's not at the focal point, but we want to make sure that those things are happening so that Black people are not pulled over because of you run their registration, and then you won't have anything problems with when it comes to the police and then just people, and then you want to offer more training. So those are the things, those are the opportunity. And we have the police department, and they've been heavily engaged, and we want to have link up to say, hey, we're all one on one team. So how can we make society be better? What does betterment look like? And those are the opportunities that when you start with Juneteenth, if everyone takes a moment and takes a second to say, how can I help? How can I better serve? How can we better serve without overstepping? And that's significant. How can we help as a people without overstepping? And once we do that and come together, I think that that's how we revolve as a people, because you know what it does? It helps you stop and understand and understand your neighbors. And actually that's one of the things for our interfaith and social action committee. It's talking about being a good neighbor. And on that day, this is an opportunity for us to kind of, yes, we're going to celebrate and we're going to have a festival, but it gives you time to get to know who the people that are around you. I often hear that I'm right near Scotland AME Zion Church, and I had no idea that this was historic. I had no idea that this was going on. And then Save Our Scotland with the Interfaith Committee, that SOS was formed, but one of the things that fell off was still having that community engagement. So the purpose of not only forming this with the Scotland Juneteenth Heritage Festival, we are going to make sure that the connections that we have with parks, with Kevin John Village, with Bruce with Big Train, and B'nai Israel, and those other congregations and those communities that we have partnered with, and we form those relationships with, that they don't fall off. We have a bigger mission, and honestly, it's beyond Scotland, it's beyond Montgomery County. This world needs our help, and as us as servants, what we are is we are the root to making these things possible. And I think that what Mr. Riley said areas hate like. We can't change the past, but collectively, we can make sure that we're changing the future, putting things in the right perspective to do the right things. And that's what we're trying to do.
Thank you for that. Pastor Huggins says, no question, but as the pastor of Scotland AME Zion Church, I want to commend Park and Planning and Mrs. LaTisha Gasaway-Paul for her presentation. So thank you for that. Question about the restoration efforts or comments. Are you seeking county state funds to aid your campaign? And this person is commenting that your project would be a worthy candidate for the Maryland African American Heritage Preservation Program for capital grants, and no cash matches required. And then this person notes that applications are due July 17th.
Yes, so we have the county has been heavily involved in helping us with grants and funding, and we have applied for those grants, and we received a lot of them already, but we still have a lot of work to do. Right now, it's at $10 million, and we're getting there. We're getting there slowly but surely. We're getting there, but as you know, inflation, things rise. So that's why I went from 9 to 10. But we stand on a rock. We have that faith, that mustard seed faith, that all things are possible through God who strengthens us. And that's exactly why we're fighting for what is ours, what is our land today. And that's the historic meaning behind it. I have ancestors that have gone before me within Scotland AME Zion Church, and I don't want to depart from that. I don't want to depart from that. I want to make sure that those have fought before me to make sure that I am able to go to that church on Sunday. I was baptized there. My mother was baptized there. And all of our family were baptized at Scotland AME Zion Church. And that's the significance behind it. I know a lot of people say, well, you can take that money and go elsewhere. Well, we don't want to go elsewhere. We don't want to go elsewhere. We're standing on that rock of Scotland AME Zion Church. And this is what we're going to stand. You can even stand with us or watch us, but either way, we're going to preserve, we're going to be historic, we're going to make history, and we're going to bring our interfaith community along with us in building those relationships to make sure that we get back into our church.
Thank you. Somebody says, looking forward to seeing the book in the future. It's important to preserve all the history. Yes. Someone says, the history committee plans to have a link to over 200 history-related topics that it has researched. Mm-hmm. Much of this will include information on the Scotland community and videos of African-American history celebrations in the country. Please visit the History Pavilion. That is from Mark Edwards, co-chair of the History Advisory Committee. So that's a History Advisory Committee as part of this festival, and and this work. Okay, great.
We have an area. Yes, we have history. Mm-hmm.
So some people are chiming in with information. There will be an extensive presentation about the history of Scotland at the Juneteenth Festival, including 8 speakers. Other topics focused on local Black history will also be presented. So thanks for
Yep,
everybody
at the
that's
History
chiming in.
Pavilion. Yes.
I will also note that the Parks Department, Montgomery Parks, has an in-house historian who's been doing a lot of work on the relationship between
Okay.
the Parks Department and the community. We're eager to participate in these conversations as
Wonderful.
well. Somebody is saying we need a big team for the 5K from the Parks Department. Let's see, thank you for this presentation. It was very informative and inspiring. I volunteer for Bells Mill Elementary School Parent-Teacher Association. I'd love to reach out to you to how we can support your efforts. So
Wonderful.
this is an opportunity to kind of build the community here.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
expand your efforts.
Mhm.
Nearly 40 religious congregations have signed on as partners of this festival.
Mhm.
So this is a comment from Parks Director Riley. Things looked really bleak for the Scotland community in the late 50s and 60s between systematic racism, lack of sewer and public transportation, and surrounding development pressures. How do you characterize the Scotland community's strength in turning things around?
I'm still here. I'm still standing. And like I said, we are built off of faith. The strength and resiliency from the Scotland community. There is nothing that can come at a Scotland AME Zion Church right now that we feel like together we can't handle. It's so many struggles that we've gone through, and this is just another struggle, and we'll get through it.
Thank you. What do you want future generations to know about Juneteenth and all the work being done?
I would definitely like future generations to know that, well, to remember that Juneteenth is not to be commercialized. Okay. Juneteenth is a historic, monumental day. It is not to be commercialized. So make sure that you stay true to self. Make sure that these things that you have put in place, that your ancestors have put in place for you, that they remain the same. What did our ancestors did? They died, and they died to give us opportunity. So take that opportunity and don't abuse it. Make sure that you know your history. Don't let someone else try to come in and tell you that someone discovered something that they didn't discover. Know your history and stand true to your word on it. And that's exactly, don't let someone try to come in and change something that you know is historic. And there's a lot of things going on about Juneteenth and a lot of things that I see. And I think that they miss the mark sometimes. And that's why we, as the JuneteenthScholar.org, what are we doing? We're making sure that we have STEP. We communicate through STEP, fraternities, sororities. We communicate with education. We also have pavilion with the Interfaith and Social Action that they're going to have voter registration there, a voter registry there to make sure that these are the things that we're providing for those that might not have access to it or might not have voted before, but we want to help you with that. It's just providing opportunity to certain things, that college awareness. We have some HBCU tent pavilion where we have some information there on that. Just staying true to self and make sure that it's not commercialized with other things that have nothing to do with Juneteenth. Now, there are things that can happen under it, but you have to put things at the forefront. Faith, feasting, fellowship. Those are the things of the foundation of Juneteenth. You can have other things as a part of it, but don't get away from the root of what Juneteenth is.
Thank you for that. So back to the festival, what are you most excited about for this festival? What should we not miss if we can't see it all?
I 100% believe, you might think I would say it's the Scotland Freedom Day concert, but I'm not. I think the most powerful day for me would be the Scotland Interfaith Worship Service. Go to JuneteenthScotland.org. That is the Scotland Interfaith Worship Service. We are going to break bread together. The significance of that is the day that there is no other opportunity, other things going on. Yes, it's Father's Day, but the breakfast is from 9:30 a.m. to 11 o'clock. It's going to be led by the Reverend Dr. Evelina Huggins and other clergy members that's going to be there as well. We also have the choir that's going to be singing, but from 9:30 a.m. to 11 o'clock, we're going to be at the Doubletree by Hilton in Gaithersburg, across the street from Montgomery County County Fairgrounds at that hotel, and we're going to have the Scotland Interfaith Worship Service. The tickets aren't that much. It's only $20 for the breakfast ticket, but that is the day where you get to actually sit down and not only meet and greet, but get to know your neighbors. And this is what this is all about. So many times I've heard people say that, and even myself, you ride up and down 7 Locks Road and you don't even know that these other people are there. That day, on that Sunday, is going to be a day where we all get to know and shake hands and fellowship with each other on that day. So I would say the Scotland Interfaith Worship Service.
Thank you. Just going to invite folks to add to the Q&A if you have questions.
Okay.
I think we've got a little bit of time, but thank you for taking my rapid fire questions. Other things not to miss. Somebody says the Health and Wellness Pavilion at the festival will focus on the unique health and needs of the Black community.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody asks, are you engaged with the National Juneteenth Observant Foundation?
No, I'm not, but it sounds like something I need to be engaged with. So I'll put that on my to-do list.
Sounds good. In the I think response to the conversation about the grants, our mutual friend Paul Tukey says the county and state have each pledged funds towards the restoration of the church.
Yes.
Appreciate that comment. Just making sure I'm not missing anything here. Stop by the History Pavilion. I think I said that. Mr. Mark Edwards says, one additional thing, the History Committee has also developed a series of educational panels with a detailed history of the Scotland community. This will be placed in a location where history speakers will provide their presentations. This will be in a location within the adjacent mall. Come and take a look.
Yes.
So fantastic.
Mhm.
Our own Deja Harris says, what local universities or colleges are doing any work on local MoCo history preservation that you know of and or are partnering with in your efforts?
So the only way that I know of, and that's because my daughter goes there, is Bowie University. So we could definitely use more volunteers as a whole and just get this out there to have more local universities more involved in our effort and what we're doing.
So that's a perfect segue. Somebody asks, how can we sign up to volunteer during the festival?
Yes, JuneteenthScotland.org.
JuneteenthScotland.org. Perfect.
Mhm.
Thank you. Well, that is the we've gotten through all the questions. You've been great in responding. I'm going to give folks go ahead. Mike is chiming on.
Let me just say one more
yes,
thing about
please.
the location, because I see that. So the Scotland Freedom Day concert will not be at the Montgomery County Fairgrounds. This is very important. The Scotland Freedom Day concert will be at the Howard County Fairgrounds. We had to make that change. So please note that the Scotland Freedom Day concert, everything is the same. You can still go on JuneteenthScotland.org, but it will be held at the Howard County Fairgrounds.
So if you only get one thing from this, JuneteenthScotland.org.
You better know it.
All your questions.
Juneteenth, it all goes down on JuneteenthScotland.org.
Beautiful. Well, thank you again, and I'm going to hand it back to Mike.
LaTisha, thank you so much for a great presentation. I don't find anything more motivating than working with people who have a passion for a cause and working with teams of really talented, dedicated people who are working for a good purpose. And that's what we're all doing here. And you're in the lead. And I don't know if any of us can match your passion, but we'll certainly try.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
I do want to, it was alluded earlier by Darren that yesterday I got a presentation from my historic and cultural resources team about some of the history that they've compiled about Scotland and the relationship in particular to the Park and Planning Commission and development and the creation of Cabin John Regional Park. And I'm eager to share that with you and the team because it's, you know, every bit of history we know is power to, as you say, move into the future. So
Yes.
we will share that with you. I am very excited about a successful festival and I look forward to seeing you at many of the events myself. I was I don't want to jinx anybody, but I was so motivated when we were doing the walkthrough in Cabin John Regional Park and someone mentioned the word rain and you didn't even flinch. You were like, rain, nothing will stand in our way.
Let it come.
You were
Let it
like,
come.
bring it on.
Rain is the least of my worries. Rain is the least
Yeah.
of my worries. Licorice sunshine drops, the
Yeah.
least of my
Bring
worries.
your
So
umbrella, right? Just
that's
bring
it.
your umbrella and have a good time.
That's it.
So I think we have a great team here between all the churches and Glenstone and Big Train and all. I don't want to leave anybody out, but all the others. Think we're on a great path to doing something great here for the broader community and for Scotland. So I want to thank you for that. And I want to thank you for being our speaker today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
Bye-bye, everybody.